Hi everybody, how are you doing again? I just wanted to pop on here and go over some information that I found last night on the arrest affidavit or the arrest warrant for Patrick Frazee. So some of the information that I had gone over yesterday was just part of it, and there was additional information that was released last night, and it kind of gives a little bit more information. So I just wanted to go over that with everybody. So this is the application and affidavit for arrest warrant. It was filed on December 21st of 2018. It's the people of the state of Colorado, which is the plaintiff, versus Frazee Patrick. What's his date of birth, weight, all that good stuff. It says the undersigned, a peace officer, blah, blah, blah. Revised statutes as amended, being first duly sworn on oath, moves the court to issue an arrest warrant for Patrick Frazee. Then again lists his information. It states that as provided in Rule 4.2 of the Colorado Rules of Criminal Procedure. The criminal procedure is as stated. It says, as grounds therefore, the undersigned applicant states that the facts submitted in support of this request are set forth in the accompanying attachment, designated as Attachment A, which is attached hereto and made part hereof, and the probable cause exists to believe that the aforementioned person has committed the offense, murder in the first degree, a Class 1 felony, and solicitation to commit murder in the first degree, a Class 2 felony, in violation of Colorado Revised Statutes 1973 as amended within the County of Teller and State of Colorado. It is specifically requested that bond on this arrest warrant be set in the amount of no bond. That was signed. The judge signed all of that good stuff too. They have Attachment A on here. So I guess I can just read all of this to you. I was trying to find a way to pull it up on the screen, and I was having issues getting it on there. I think because it's a multi-page document here, but the following is submitted to the court to document the probable cause in support of the request for issuance of an arrest for Patrick Frazee. The offense is fully documented in Woodland Park Police Department Offense Report 18-1530, detailing the offense of murder in the first degree, a Class 1 felony, solicitation to commit murder in the first degree, a Class 2 felony, with the victims identified as Barrett, Kelsey, lists her information. Number 1, your affiant is Commander Christopher Adams, a duly sworn and state certified police officer with the Woodland Park Police Department, who has been employed as such since 2004. Your affiant has participated in other law enforcement investigations and has relied on the other investigators with more investigative training and experience, including but not limited to, and then it goes on and lists a whole bunch of people. They submit the following facts: that on or about November 22nd in the County of Teller in the State and District of Colorado, the defendant, Patrick Frazee, did knowingly and with intent after deliberation commit murder in the first degree and solicited her murder in violation of Colorado Revised Statutes, and that lists them. This affidavit is being submitted to support the issuance for an arrest warrant for these offenses. It goes on to say the facts of this affidavit come from my personal observations, my training and experience, and the information obtained from other agents, law enforcement officials, and witnesses. Much of this affidavit is derived from information provided to me by other law enforcement agencies, namely from the FBI and CBI. This affidavit is intended to show merely that there is sufficient probable cause for the requested warrant and does not set forth all of my knowledge about this matter. All information contained in this affidavit can be found in Woodland Park Police Department, case report number 18-1530. Now we go into facts to support of probable cause. Background of those mentioned in this affidavit. Patrick Frazee, date of birth, blah blah, is a Colorado resident and is last known person known to investigators to see Kelsey Barrett alive. Frazee and Barrett are parents of named, and although they do not live together, they co-parented, and this is all, a lot of this is being blacked out. Like, this is the redacted affidavit, and we all know her name, but in this, I'm not going to mention it in this one as it was been redacted. Works at, oh, wait, here we go. And although they did not live together, they co-parented, blank, works as a rancher, and is involved in the farrowing of horses. Your client was unable to locate any prior felony criminal history for Frazee. Crystal Jean Kenny Lee, date of birth, blah blah, is an Idaho resident who lives at blah blah in Idaho as a registered nurse. Your client is unable to was unable to locate any prior felony criminal history for Lee. Investigators believe Lee has known Patrick Frazee for over 12 years and has traveled to Colorado in the past, other than as it relates to this investigation. Summary of a missing person investigation in Colorado. This is number 7. On December 2nd of 2018, Cheryl Barrett reported to the Woodland Park Police Department that she had not been able to communicate with her daughter, Kelsey Barrett, in over a week and requested the WPPD conduct a welfare check at her residence. Officers responded to Kelsey's residence in Woodland Park, Colorado, and were unable to locate Kelsey. Barrett's family reported that it would be highly unusual for Barrett to leave without without informing any of her friends and family. A missing person investigation was initiated, and weeks later ultimately turned into a murder investigation. Number 8. Of note, in some portions of this affidavit, depending on the date of events being discussed, the investigation may be referred to a missing person investigation or a murder investigation. For the purposes of this affidavit, they are indeed one and the same. Officers later contacted the father of Kelsey's blank child, Patrick Frazee, who claimed that he last saw Kelsey on November 22nd of 2018 when the two exchanged custody of their child in an alley behind her residence. I don't know about you, but that kind of sounds sketch. Frazee reported he had not seen her since then. Excuse me. Ultimately, Frazee was allegedly the last person that ever saw Barrett alive. Frazee told officers that his romantic relationship with Kelsey was over, and during the custody exchange, he returned items that belonged to her, including a handgun, residence keys, and other personal belongings. To date, none of those items have been recovered. Number 10. Ultimately, investigators located video surveillance from the Safeway in Woodland Park, Colorado, that showed Barrett and her daughter shopping at the store. It appeared she departed the grocery store at approximately 12:27 hours on November 22nd of 2018. Investigators located receipts from Safeway in her residence and vehicle that corroborated this information. I find it interesting. Maybe we'll find out a little bit more, but I find it interesting in this aspect because we haven't seen her leaving Safeway. We have seen the footage of her entering with her daughter, but we never see them leaving. So I find that interesting. Number 11 is between 12:54 and 13:17 hours, also on November 22nd of 2018. Frazee was captured on surveillance footage at a Walmart in Woodland Park, Colorado, with a baby carrier with a similar blanket as seen in Safeway footage. Although blank cannot be clearly seen in the footage, it is likely she was in the baby carrier. I guess the daughter. Frazee told the Woodland Park police officer that he met with Barrett in an alleyway outside of her residence to exchange custody of the child. That just seems really weird. Investigators believe this exchange did indeed happen since Frazee appeared at Walmart with blank, and this is the last known in-person sighting of Barrett. At approximately 1324 hours, also on November 22nd of 2018, an individual that matches the physical description of Frazee is captured on neighbor's surveillance camera entering the front door of Barrett's residence. This photograph contradicts Frazee's timeline provided to investigators. So it sounds like he was trying to give one story and obviously was found on video footage that contradicts that. So what a winner. The same residential surveillance camera captured an individual that matches the physical description of Frazee at Barrett's residence at about 1536 hours. It is noted that around this time, Frazee's phone records indicated that he called his mother and Crystal Lee. Cell phone communication between Barrett and Frazee during the early morning of November 22nd, 2018. That's the next section. This is number 14. Your affiant has reviewed cellular telephone records between Kelsey's cell phone, and it gives her number, and Patrick's cell phone, and it gives his number, during the early morning of November 22nd of 2018. Your affiant found that between the hours of 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. there were approximately 10 contacts between these phones, one of which was an approximate 4-minute phone call at or about 1:42 a.m. The next one is cell phone communication between Barrett and Frazee after November 22nd of 2018. This is number 15. Patrick reported that he was in cell phone communication with Barrett through November 25th of 2018. Investigators applied for and were granted search warrants related to Frazee's and Baris' historical call detail records and historical cell site information. Indeed, investigators located messages between Barrett's phone and Frazee's phone between November 22nd and November 25th of 2018. Ultimately, as discussed below, investigators learned that much of the communication between Frazee's cell and Barrett's cell phone between November 22nd and 25th was a scheme developed by Frazee in an attempt to distract law enforcement, distort the actual date of her disappearance, and separate himself as a suspect in a murder investigation. Number 16. A review of the record showed the following text message dates and time sent and received from Kelsey's phone to Patrick's phone between November 22nd and 25th. So apparently there was information that was sent. There are 4 text messages sent and received on the 22nd. 5 sent and received on the 23rd, 1 on the 24th, and 3 on the 25th. So this is some new information that I was not aware of as well. Number 17, phone call history was also located from a physical download of Frazee's cellular telephone. These records revealed the following call history between November 22nd, 2018 and November 25th of 2018 and are displayed below. So there is a phone call from Kelsey Barrett on November 22nd. It gives the time. It was a missed call. There was another one that was a missed call. It looks like shortly after that. There was 2 incoming calls from Kelsey Barrett. There was another missed call, and these were all on the 22nd. There was an outgoing call to Kelsey. There were 3 outgoing calls that were in a row. 1 incoming call next. 3 outgoing calls. Again, this is Patrick Frazee's data. So, like, when it's an outgoing call to Kelsey Barrett. When it's an incoming call or a missed call, that's from Kelsey Barrett. There's another incoming call. Oh, wait, here we go. So, there was an incoming call on November 22nd at 12:33. It says UTC. It was 8 seconds. It was an incoming call. There was an outgoing call on the 23rd that lasted for 4 minutes and 18 seconds, it appears. There was another outgoing call to Kelsey on the 23rd that lasted for 55 seconds. There was another outgoing call to Kelsey that lasted 5 minutes and 13 seconds. There was a call from Kelsey. That call lasted 16 minutes and 26 seconds. Then there were a number of outgoing calls. That incoming call that was for 16 minutes and 26 seconds actually came on the 24th. And then the rest of these were outgoing calls on, let's see, there was one on the 24th that lasted 2 minutes and 49 seconds. And then the rest of them were on the 25th. And they mostly lasted under a minute, except for 2 of them. One was exactly a minute, and the other one was 2 minutes and 34 seconds. So obviously someone was picking up her phone, making calls to Patrick, whether they were accepted on Patrick's end or whether they were missed calls on Patrick's end. And then Patrick was doing the same thing on his side. He was using his phone to get in contact with Kelsey's phone, and someone was obviously picking up her phone. Because unfortunately, we know that she was murdered on the 22nd. So this is just a bunch of phone data that supports that they were trying to create a ruse. Historical cell site location for related cellular telephones. Number 18. Special Agent Kevin Hollyland, FBI, conducted a historical call detail record analysis to include cell site locations from lawfully obtained cellular telephone records of Barrett and Frazee. Your affiant has reviewed information from the analysis and in summary. Learn the following information. Historical cell site analysis helps to determine the location of a cellular telephone based on cell tower antenna locations and orientation. Locations are determined by activity of the cellular telephone and represent an approximate area, not an exact location. Different cellular carriers report this information in different formats and fashions. The analysis of this data revealed that Barrett and Frazee's cellular telephones both connected to the same Verizon tower in Woodland Park at 12:33 p.m. on November 22nd of 2018 when Barrett's cell phone returned a missed call from Frazee at 12:31 p.m. Following those connections, both phones were seen by towers near Cripple Creek the evening on November 22nd of 2018, traveling in the same directions and often similar distances from the cell towers when measurements were captured by the Verizon network. This is crazy, you guys. He had her phone with him the whole time, and every time he was trying to call her or vice versa, have her call him, it was showing that the phones were like right next to each other. It says that, let's see here. Later in the day, both phones then appear to travel together from the area of Frazee's residence, this was on the 23rd, towards the same area west of Cripple Creek that both phones had visited the prior evening, before returning back in the direction of Frazee's residence. So again, they're tracking these phones back and forth the whole time. Hey, everybody that's recently joined, thank you for joining. We're just recapping the information from the arrest affidavit that was released for Patrick Frazee, and we're just learning some crazy information on some of this cell phone data and stuff. On November 24th of 2018, both Barrett's and Frazee's phones utilized the Verizon cell tower in Florissant, along with the sector facing Frazee's residence first thing in the morning. Both phones eventually traveled the same area west of Cripple Creek. Another analysis of those records revealed that Baris' cellular telephone likely traveled from Colorado via I-70 into Utah and I-15 through Salt Lake City, Utah, into Idaho during the evening of November 24th and or the morning of November 25th. The last activity for Baris' phone was on November 25th of 2018 at 1713 hours, approximately. It gives the direction or distance from a Verizon cell tower in Gooding, Idaho. That distance from the tower places the phone at or near Mallet Gorge State Park, which is further supported by additional distance from tower measurements from Verizon in the minutes leading up to the data point. Based on the last location of Barrett's cell phone, members of the Gooding County Sheriff's Office were requested to search this area for her cell phone with negative results. Your affiant submits it is likely that Frazee murdered Barrett at her residence on the afternoon of November 22nd and took her cell phone with him when he left her residence. This is the most likely explanation for the movement of the two cellular telephone together for the remainder of November 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. Frazee ultimately gave the cell phone to Crystal Lee, who then traveled back to Idaho, which is where she disposed of the phone. Indeed, Lee admitted to sending messages from Barrett's phone on the return trip to Idaho, with the intent of distracting law enforcement at the discretion of Frazee. The next section is a search of Barrett's apartment and discovery of blood in the bathroom. 26. Investigators searched the residence of Barrett several times. Hold on, let me say that again. Investigators searched the residence of Barrett, several times. Items like clothing, toiletries, and other cosmetics were still present in the residence. Barrett's family members, sorry guys, this is like the ink that transferred or whatever, it's like some of the letters aren't fully there, so I apologize. Items like clothing, toiletries, and other cosmetics were still present in the residence. Barrett's family members stated it would be unlikely for her to take a trip without bringing those items with her. Investigators did not locate several expected items, including but not limited to her car keys, although both known vehicles were parked outside of her residence, her driver's license, purse, or cellular phone. So some things that are currently missing right now would be her phone, in addition to her car keys for 2 cars, even though those vehicles are still at the home, her driver's license, and her purse. So that's just super weird. Hey there, everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yes, please hit that like button and subscribe. I really, really appreciate it. I appreciate everybody following my channel as well and joining all of the updates that we're finding on all of this information. The next one says that Baris family members were living in the residence during this period and alerted investigators to an unknown substance on the base of the toilet. Crime scene analysts from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, which is also known as the CBI, responded to the residence and found the unknown substance to be traces of blood based on Blue Star forensic latent bloodstain reagent tests. This was applied to the rest of the bathroom and found positive results for the presence of blood in the bathroom of the residence. I'm assuming this is something like a luminol. This is just me making an assumption, and you know what happens when you do that. But it sounds like what they use, luminol is used for any kind of, luminol is used for any kind of bodily fluids and any sort of substances that they're trying to find. Like, most of the time they're looking for the presence of blood or semen or something like that, saliva, things like that. It looks like that's where they found the blood test. They used it through the bathroom. Okay, here we go. A DNA profile was developed, and investigators learned that the blood matched the profile of Barrett. Additionally, one unknown male profile and one unknown female profile were also developed from various areas of the bathroom. It is unlikely the male profile is Frazee's based on lab reports. So it sounds like somebody was in the bathroom, but I don't know if they ran any of those tests and compared them to Clint Barrett, her brother. I'm pretty sure he was the one who would have been staying at her condo along with her mother. To me, that's a little odd because that should have been a crime scene. That should have been completely locked off and taped off. And I know that it's convenient for them to stay there, but she was missing. And if they last knew that she might have been there, like, to me, I don't know why they wouldn't have done that. You know what I mean? Like, I would have thought that they would have been cautious and tried to secure everything down, you know? I don't know. But I guess it's a good thing because at the same time, the family was able to alert of these things that they were finding. Additionally, Barrett's mother stated there had previously been a bath rug near the toilet and shower in the bathroom, but the bath rug appeared to be missing. So that's what I was mentioning yesterday. I know that there was a bath rug that was missing. So that's something that they alerted to them as well. So it kind of seemed like a cleanup, like maybe they got blood on it and they were trying to get rid of it, but the family did notice that. Yeah, normally, that's exactly when things are the scariest and things are the most dangerous for someone, is when they're trying to get away. That's when the other person in the relationship or the perpetrator or whatever, that's when they absolutely lose their shit. But the thing is, and the thing that sucks is that, like, he was dating somebody else. He was dating Crystal Lee. Sometimes I just don't understand, or Crystal Kenny, KK, whatever you want to call her. I just don't understand why he wouldn't leave her alone and move on with his life. Like, come on. I guess it was a custody thing and a power thing, and, like, I don't know. It's just really sad. Now we have, let's see here. This is a new section here. As will be discussed below, Lee eventually admitted to investigators what happened in Barrett's residence. So this is where we're about to get, I guess, detailed information about that. I know we kind of went over some of that, but we were going based on tweets from people that were inside of the court. Now we're actually hearing. Search of the residence of Frazee and Florissant, Florissant, Colorado. On or about December 13th, 2018, investigators applied for and were granted a search warrant for the residence of Frazee. That warrant was executed, and although some items were of evidentiary value, they were collected. The body of Barrett, though, was not found. For example, during the search of Frazee's residence, a bottle of bleach and a Swiffer mop were found to have presumptive positive tests of the presence of blood. These items were not seized during the first warrant, and a second warrant was applied for and granted to the return of the residence to seize them. Lab tests are pending on these items, but no results have been received at this time. So that might even be Kelsey Barrett's blood, unfortunately, as well. There was also a document found with a list of 5 people who could provide medical care for blank in the event that Frazee was absent. This document was dated December 12th of 2018 and signed Patrick Frazee. Of particular interest, Kelsey Barrett's name is not on the list, presumably because she is deceased. A lot of times when somebody does something and when they know that they're not coming back, or when they're deceased, whether they've harmed them or know that somebody's harmed them, if you hear them in interviews, they will go back to past tense, and they might also slip up and not think to add someone as an emergency contact or as somebody who can help provide medical care. Like if something happens to, my son and I'm not with him, that person has to have some sort of I either have to meet them there, or they have to have some sort of, letter for care, or I don't know exactly how it works, but it sounds like there was a list of people that he was getting together, and he didn't add Kelsey on there. And if he truly thought that Kelsey might have just been missing or might have just disappeared and ran off, he should have listed her on there regardless. It does sound like a bloodbath. It sounds like, unfortunately, it sounds like they say he beat her with a baseball bat in the front room, but with where either there was such a bloodbath in the front room that KK and Patrick Frazee kind of drug it all throughout the house, or it sounds like he might have beat her throughout the house, and that's just awful. Like, either way, it absolutely breaks my heart, especially for the little girl and her family. Development of information related to Crystal Lee. Based on cell phone details analysis from Frazee's cell phone, investigators learned that Frazee was communicating with that phone number, which was an Idaho area code, during the dates surrounding Baris' suspicious disappearance. Open source and other information revealed that the phone number belonged to Lee, including a recorded phone interview conducted by FBI agents on December 14th of 2018 with Lee on that phone number. During this interview, in short, Lee provided materially false and misleading information during that recorded interview. So she goes on to lie to an FBI agent, not just some random, law enforcement agent or a cop, an actual FBI agent. Yes, unfortunately, the baby was there. The baby was in the back room, like in a bouncy like plaything or bouncer thing is what I'm understanding. During the interview, Lee was asked about the last time she communicated with Frazee or when that time was, and responded by saying she wasn't sure and would have to look at her phone. When pressed by the interviewing agent, she responded within a month and a half. She then stated that she was actually at Frazee's residence in Colorado on Saturday, November 24th, from approximately 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. to look at a horse, and arrived back home in Utah on Sunday, November 25th, 2018, around 10:30 a.m. or 11 a.m. after driving during the night. Lee stated she took this trip by herself. Ultimately, investigators learned that Frazee made up the story and told Lee what to tell the FBI if they called her. Lee stated she had never met Barrett and had no idea who she was until she saw the online news articles about her disappearance. Lee did know that Frazee had an infant, and it was unusual she would not know who the mother of that child was. As mentioned above, there are call records between Frazee and Lee on the 24th of November around 7:23 a.m., 10:47 a.m., 11:39 a.m., 1:06 p.m., and 5:21 p.m. when Lee said she was at Frazee's residence. Your affiant submits that it would be unlikely for Lee to be talking with Frazee if they were together at this residence, as people tend to communicate in person and not by telephone when they are with each other. I think I have heard something that she might have been there, or they might have been able to connect her phone. I think we may actually find that out here soon. We're almost done with this document. Let's see. I'm pretty sure she was, based on this, if what I heard was correct. On her return trip, she stated she drove I-70 through Salt Lake City. Lee borrowed a black vehicle from a friend. He could not remember the make and model of the car. Lee stated Frazee did not ask her to take Barris' phone and dispose of it. Okay. Investigators applied for and were granted a search warrant for the call detail records and historical cell site information related to Lee's cell phone. In summary, a review of the information revealed that Lee's phone was connected to not only a cell phone tower, but a sector of that tower that would service Barrett's residence on the morning of November 24th. The tower is some distance from Frazee's residence and likely would not service his residence. The fact tends to lead investigators that Lee was not at Frazee's residence like she stated and lied during her interview. Additionally, investigators learned that Lee's phone traveled back to Idaho on the 24th and 25th of November. Coincidentally, Lee's phone was connected to the exact same tower and sector in a remote area of the Colorado-Utah border on the morning of November 25th of 2018. Specifically, Lee's phone was connected to the tower at approximately 4:13 a.m., 4:17 a.m., and 4:23 a.m. Barris' phone was connected to the tower at approximately 4:11 a.m. and 4:16 a.m. It is reasonable to assume, based on this information, Lee was likely in possession of Barrett's cellular telephone. She does. She knows far too much information. Also, during the return trip to Idaho, Lee appeared to be in communication with Frazee, utilizing her cell phone, including phone activity shortly after the last activity of Baris' cellular telephone. Also on the 4th of December, investigators seized the cell phone belonging to Frazee. Also on the 4th of December, Lee obtained a new cellular telephone, according to her phone records. The acquisition of Lee's new phone will be discussed here more in detail. Interview with Crystal Lee in Idaho by CBI and FBI. On or about December 17, 2018, Lee was interviewed by agents from the CBI and FBI at her residence. During that recorded interview, Lee stated she wanted to speak to her attorney before continuing to speak with the investigators, but indicated she would want to be cooperative. Indeed, Lee eventually cooperated with law enforcement, and the details of the information provided will be discussed below. Interview of Chadli, Crystal Lee's ex-husband. Chadli, an Idaho resident, was interviewed by the FBI's agents in Idaho. Chad stated he was married to Crystal Lee for approximately the last 8 years, but was recently divorced in the summer of 2018. Chad and Crystal still share a home in Idaho, and they raised 2 children together. Lee lied to Chad about her whereabouts during November 24th and 25th of 2018. Initially, she told Chad she was going to a birthday party at a friend's house in Idaho, and told Chad she was going to help her friend Megan move, also in Idaho. Investigators ultimately learned that Lee drove Megan's 2012 black Volkswagen Jetta to Colorado on or about these dates. Megan was later identified as Megan, I'm not going to say her last name, and her interview will be discussed in detail below. After Lee was interviewed on the phone around December 14th by FBI agents, Chad stated she was very nervous when she talked to him about the phone call, and finally told Chad she had actually gone to Colorado to see a horse she and Patrick owned together around Thanksgiving. She also stated that she thought someone set her up based on the facts Lee concealed her whereabouts to Chad, combined with lying to the FBI agents. It is reasonable to believe that Lee's statements are unreliable at best. This is crazy. Oh my goodness. Chad also stated that Crystal and Patrick dated in college, and that they were involved in a sexual relationship during at least 2016 and possibly into 2017. Chad did not want any of the details of the affair, and he did not have any further information regarding their relationship to provide. Lee did not mention her sexual and romantic relationship with Patrick to investigators, and based on the circumstances, investigators consider this information to be both material and relevant, and that Lee purposely concealed this information prior to her full cooperation and truthful statements to investigators on December 20th of 2018. On or about December 4th of 2018, Lee told Chad she could not find her cell phone and asked Chad to take her into town to purchase a new one, which ultimately was a replacement Samsung device. Based on phone records obtained from Verizon Wireless, investigators knew Lee had a Samsung device during the time period of Barrett's disappearance. Again, the timing of her new phone acquisition in Idaho is approximately the same as when Patrick's phone was taken by law enforcement in Colorado. Chad knows that Lee has a Google Gmail account, and he had her account information stored on his phone. Investigators applied for and were granted a search warrant for this account. During a review of that account, investigators found Google location history data for most of November and most of December. Holy crap. However, the dates surrounding the murder of Barrett contain no location history. Interesting. So she either deleted it or got a new phone instead, or I don't know. But even then, like your Google account, unless you create a new one, that would be the same for no matter what phone you have. I don't know. That's weird. So then there's an interview of Megan Garrison. That's a longtime friend. There's also an interview of Michelle Stein. This was a paralegal. She was, let me see here. In summary, Michelle is a friend of Lee's and has been for some time. Michelle stated that Crystal told her that Patrick asked her to help kill his blank mother. Michelle remembered the date because she was driving her son to a doctor's appointment in Utah during the conversation. Okay, so this is that Megan person. She's talking about, like, that setup and her driving her car. Something about Walmart. Okay, the cooperation of Crystal Lee on December 20th. Lee has obtained an attorney and agreed to provide truthful statements and fully cooperate with the investigators in consideration of charges in the caption investigation. The below information in paragraphs 61 through 78 comes from an audio and video recorded interview conducted by investigators with Lee. This is probably about to be some of the juicy stuff. Lee stated that Frazee has been contemplating killing Barrett for months, specifically as early as September of 2018. Indeed, Frazee had approached Lee in the past with plans to kill Barrett, although the plans did not come to fruition until November 22, 2018. Frazee had told Lee that Barrett was an abusive mother who physically abused her daughter, or their daughter, on multiple instances, including with an iron. Eurofine is unaware of any of these reports of child abuse or neglect. For example, Frazee instructed Lee to obtain a cell phone that did not trace to her, known as a burner phone. The purpose of obtaining this phone would be to distract law enforcement and conceal her involvement. Frazee had discussed putting poison in Barrett's coffee, and had also given Lee a metal pipe to hit Barrett in the back of the head. Specifically, Lee was solicited on multiple occasions by Frazee to commit the murder of Barrett. Between the dates of approximately, approximately September 1st to November 22nd, she was solicited 3 times. Lee took specific and significant steps towards accomplishing the murder. Lee stated she actually went to a Starbucks coffee to Barrett's, or actually, wait, what? Okay, this doesn't make any sense. It says, Lee stated she actually went to a Starbucks coffee to Barrett's residence, and although she did not put anything in the coffee, Frazee wanted her to put Valium and Ambien in the coffee. On another occasion, Frazee provided Lee a metal pipe and again instructed her to go to Barrett's residence and hit her with the pipe. Lee did not go through with it and returned the pipe to Frazee's residence. Megan Garrison knew of Patrick recruiting Lee to help kill Barrett in October of 2018. Your client submits that this information tends to speak towards Frazee's intent and deliberation prior to the murder of Barrett, and information obtained from Lee tends to corroborate Megan's statements. On or about November 22nd, Lee stated that Frazee called her and instructed her to come to Colorado and told her she had, this is in quotes, had a mess to clean up. Lee stated she couldn't come until the 24th of November, and when she came, she brought bleach, gloves, a hairnet, shoe covers, and other supplies from Idaho. Your client submits that when Frazee discussed the mess, Lee understood that Barrett was killed. Cell phone call and text records support the fact that Lee and Frazee did indeed have a conversation on November 22nd, as Lee reported. Lee's involvement and knowledge related to the murder case. Lee had knowledge of how Frazee murdered Barrett because he told her in detail. Frazee used a baseball bat to kill Barrett in the living room of her residence on the 22nd of November 2018. Frazee had tied something around Barrett's eyes and was having her guess the scents of different candles. While she was blindfolded and distracted, he hit her with the bat, causing her death. Frazee was concerned he left a tooth behind in the residence because when he hit her in the face with the bat, it presumably caused several of her teeth to become dislodged. Lee stated she in fact found that tooth, including the tooth root, and later disposed of it. Oh my gosh. Hey Christy, thanks for joining. We're just going over this crazy affidavit. It's absolutely insane. Frazee's daughter was present in the residence when her mother was murdered by Frazee. Specifically, Frazee stated that the daughter was inside a playpen in a back room of the residence. Investigators were able to look at Frazee's historical site locations and found Frazee's phone was connected to a tower that would service Baris residence between the hours of approximately 1630 hours on November 22nd of 2018. This information tends to support Lee's information about the location of Frazee on November 22nd of 2018. Furthermore, investigators located a child playpen at Baris residence. Okay, so I was wrong. I said that I thought that maybe she was in like a child bouncer or a child playpen or something, or a child bouncer or something, and she was in a playpen. Frazee instructed Lee to clean Baris residence. Lee described a horrific scene at Baris residence that was inclusive of blood all over the residence. Blood was on the curtains, pillows, books, babies' toys, stuffed animals, oven mitts, Barrett's purse, and other items. You guys, there was blood all over that house. Oh my gosh. Lee took the items covered in blood from Barrett's apartment and burned them on Frazee's property with Frazee. This will be discussed more below. Lee described that she spent hours cleaning the residence. Blood was also on the floor, in the kitchen, on the walls, on the ceilings, on the television, pictures, couch, and books. Lee used bleach and Windex to clean the residence. Lee wore gloves, a hairnet, booties, and a white suit that covered her whole body. She also used the shower to help clean up the residence. Lee stated investigators could still find Barrett's blood on the rock face around the fireplace because she was hoping investigators would find it. There was also blood on the baby gate, which Lee moved to the back bedroom. She also stated that there would be blood on the base of the walls. Your affiant has viewed photos of Barrett's residence and found a fireplace that matched the description Lee gave. The disposal of Barrett's body at Frazee's residence in Florissant, Colorado. Frazee originally took Barrett's body from her residence and stored it in a black plastic tote with silver handles at the Nash Ranch on the 22nd of November. The tote was stored in a barn on top of a haystack at the ranch, and Frazee used a tractor to put the tote up high. He later took the tote from the Nash Ranch to his property on the late afternoon or early evening of November 24th. Lee went with Frazee to Nash Ranch to retrieve the body, which explains how she has intimate details of what the tote looked like and where it was stored. Investigators were able to review historical cell phone records, and the cell phones belonging to Lee, Barrett, and Frazee were connected to a cell phone tower outside Cripple Creek, Colorado, between approximately 17:01 and 18:14 hours on November 24th of 2018. The tote was transported in Frazee's red pickup truck from Nash Ranch to his residence in Florissant. Frazee put the black tote in a trough on his residence along with items from Barrett's residence, the bat used to kill Barrett, and burned it to dispose of evidence. The trough was described as a round aluminum structure that would hold approximately 100 gallons. Accelerants, including gasoline and motor oil, were poured into the trough as a fire burned. Lee stated Frazee poured at least 5 gallons of gasoline from a gasoline container into the trough to keep the fire burning, and continued to add wood to the fire. Holy crap. Frazee gave Lee the firearm that belonged to Barrett late on the evening of the 24th of November. Frazee wanted Barrett's firearm to appear to be missing in an attempt to lead to lead investigators to believe that Barrett might have committed suicide. Frazee said that because she wouldn't take the body, she had to take Barrett's firearm with her and dispose of it. Oh my gosh. He just treated everybody he knew like crap. Lee disposed of all the contents of Barrett's purse and her cell phone. The content of Barrett's purse was burned at the same time as her body. There was a mace container, a pair of earrings, and Barrett's identification card. These items were all burned with the exception of Barrett's cell phone. Hi, Iron Cowgirl. How are you? Thanks for joining. Frazee gave Lee the cell phone that belonged to Barrett while at his residence in Florissant, Colorado on November 28. Lee stated she used Barrett's phone in Woodland Park, Colorado, Grand Junction, Colorado, after getting to Utah, and in Idaho before getting rid of the phone in Idaho. Lee sent text messages from Barrett's phone at the direction of Frazee. Frazee told her to text Barrett's employer, her mother, and his son. Investigators were able to corroborate this information, and cell site records confirmed Barrett's phone was indeed used in Woodland Park, Grand Junction, and Utah. These specific locations were not released to the media, and because Lee had knowledge of these locations, investigators tend to consider this information reliable and corroborated. I know we talked about, questioning her testimony and what she had to say, but it sounds like a lot of the things she had to say could actually be corroborated. Yeah, he burned her on his property. Yeah, exactly, Iron Cowgirl. Isn't that awful? I hope she gets charged with something. That's Sheila. Lee stated she sent Barrett's mother a message referencing that she would call her tomorrow. That is crazy. Alright, now they're doing the conclusion. After obtaining full cooperation from Lee, she admitted to her involvement in the destruction of evidence from the murder of Barrett, cleaning Barrett's blood from inside her residence, and transporting Barrett's phone to Idaho, and ultimately told investigators that Frazee did indeed murder Barrett with a baseball bat in the living room of her residence. This makes me sick. She's as bad as him, really. Lee's friend Megan told investigators that Frazee had solicited Lee in the past and that on October 22nd, Lee told Megan Patrick had asked her to help kill Barrett. This information was corroborated by Lee's statements and speaks directly to Frazee's intent and deliberation to murder Barrett. So her friend knew too. Why wouldn't her friend say anything? Barrett has been missing for weeks, and there has been national news attention on major networks related to her disappearance. To date, nobody has come forward saying that they have seen Barrett, and her family and friends have not heard from her. There are no indications that Barrett is still alive, including logins to her known email accounts or use of her known cell phone or ENT bank account. Although the remains of Barrett have not been located to date, Lee admitted that she participated in the destruction of evidence of the murder, viewed and identified the murder scene, and provided information to investigators about how Barrett's body was burned. Investigators have begun to search, but have not yet located Barrett's remains. Based on the facts set forth above, I submit probable cause exists to believe that on or about November 22nd, within the state of Colorado and within Teller County, the defendant, Patrick Frazee, after deliberation and with the intent to cause the death of a person other than himself, caused the death of Kelsey Barrett and solicited the murder of Kelsey Barrett in violation of Colorado Revised Code. Therefore, your affiant respectfully requests the issuance of an arrest warrant charging the same. May you rot under the jail, Patrick Frazee. Makes me sick, you guys. Can you believe that? How long did that take me? How long have I been on here?
54 minutes. It took me almost 54 minutes to read that nonsense. That makes me sick. Oh my gosh. Like, and Patrick, sorry, I've got my M&M wrapper over here. I was having a really bad morning. I don't know if you caught any of my videos in the last... Ugh, I needed some M&Ms. So, yeah, this just makes me sick. I cannot believe that. I mean, there is just so much evidence, and that also just points everybody, you don't always have to have a body for there to be murder charges. And it seriously blows my mind that Patrick would try some stupid crap like this right after the Watts case. The Watts case was in Colorado as well. Like, I just don't understand it. And then you have the Nicole Olsen case, where I'm pretty convinced, I have not followed up on that in the last few days, but I am pretty darn convinced that there's an issue on that side of things as well. Like, I'm pretty sure that they have some sort of corruption going on. So, I don't know. I feel like it's not a murder-suicide. I, again, need to check up on that and stuff. But, like, there's so many. That was in Texas. And I don't know. Yeah, exactly. I can't with KK either. How could she... For a darn guy, yeah. And, like, I understand she was going through a divorce and stuff, but it sounds like, if you heard, we had heard back in some of that arrest warrant that we heard from Crystal Lee's ex-husband. And it sounds like she, as in Crystal Lee, cheated on her husband before they were divorced with Patrick. And then her and her husband ended up getting divorced. They still live together, and they still take care of the kids together. I don't know if they do now, but they did at the time. And then she goes with some wackadoo, she eventually found out that he had a kid. And then after that, eventually, I guess, found out about Kelsey and that he wanted to kill her. Like, why wouldn't that make her run for the hills? I don't understand it, you guys. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. What are your thoughts? I think it's nuts. Like, yeah, they had been doing the deeds that long. Yeah, what did I read? 12 or 14 years? Yeah, you said 14 years? Exactly. They had been together for a really long time. I mean, whatever. He seemed like a real winner. She kept saying that they owned a horse together. I wonder if that's true, or I wonder if that was just some sort of excuse for her to go out there all the time. I hope they can pin more on her, too. I know that yesterday when I was on here, I was reading some tweets from Sam Kramer TV on Twitter. He's at Sam Kramer TV. And he is a reporter for KOAA in Colorado. And people were asking him and tweeting to him if, maybe she could come down with some more charges. And they weren't really sure. I mean, it's hard to say. My understanding was that she went to court. She pleaded guilty. She took a lesser charge deal. It was almost like a deal or some sort of something because she was going to testify against Patrick. But the only thing from there is that she wasn't going to be sentenced until after Patrick, after all of his court stuff, and I think after he's sentenced. And I'm pretty sure that's to make sure that she testifies. Obviously, she wasn't there the other day because she was sequestered. She's a witness. She is sequestered. She can't hear anybody else's testimony, and it's crazy. Is it Sazmare? I totally want to say that right. I do not know. I want to make sure I say that right. Sorry, I want to make sure. When I first saw it, I thought it said something else, and I'm glad I did not repeat that. I would feel awful if I got I'm trying to get everybody's names right. I know mine's a tongue twister. True Crime Truth Finders. My husband says TCTF. I go by K Crimes. My name's Caitlin, but I go by K Crimes. You can call me K, Caitlin, whatever. It doesn't matter. We just have a joint channel so that we can both be on here and do our stuff. Some things I do by myself, and then other things I do with him. Alright, you guys, so I just wanted to bring you the update on everything that was going on with this case. So I am going to try and come up with some new cases to explore and some things to look into. I'd love to hear from you. I know I've heard from a bunch of you on email lately, and I really appreciate it. I love your stories. Sassy Nightmare, Sassmare. I love it. That's awesome. That's perfect. And that was a perfect way to explain it, too. And thank you all for joining my channel. Please subscribe and like my video if you can. I appreciate all the comments. Make sure that you're also sending me emails on any kind of true crime stories that are going on in your town. Anything that you need me to look at. And I'll be sure to do that. I appreciate everybody's time today and for all of you viewing my channel and taking the time to hang out with me. Bye, y'all.